The Good Times Netflix series trailer and the importance of protecting your bleep. I'm censoring myself. Uh, from trademark and copyright infringement so it doesn't end up in this situation, okay? So everybody has been seeing or has seen the Netflix Good Times official trailer animated series. It is extremely disrespectful. Not only is it extremely disrespectful, it also had a clip of what I perceive to be pedophilia, statutory, you know what, in there. Obviously, that school teacher's voice was Wanda Sykes. Very disappointed in her for talking to that young man about the size of his feet and OnlyFans and asking him to show her what he's working with. So this is just a hot mess, okay? It's a hot mess, but all of this at its root and at its core is copyright and trademark infringement. So the godfather of Black Sitcom is Eric Monte. Nobody really knew about Eric Monte before he came out and said, hey, the Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, Good Times, Cooley High, all of these wonderful Black sitcoms and Black movies, there were his brainchild. He was the creator of that back in those days. There were not any African American Black intellectual property attorneys. Thankfully, we have come a long way, but we still have a way to go. So he got caught up in that situation, and essentially his creative control was stolen from him from all of these years. Norman Lear, who was the alleged executive producer and alleged creator. Everybody thought Norman Lear was the creator all these years until Eric Monte came forward, and he did eventually sue. Now, I haven't seen the actual language of the settlement, but he did receive some money for that, and he did receive some form of creative control and intellectual property rights. But to be completely honest, at that time that it happened, it was decades later, the damage had already been done. So this is why we are in the situation that we are in right now with that deplorable and disgusting and horrible Netflix animated series of Good Times. Because at its root, that is what happens when you do not own your intellectual property rights from the beginning. I always speak out about this. I would not be able to be my full self if I did not speak out about at its core that intellectual property infringement is rooted in all the isms, but definitely racism and sexism and classism and elitism. It is what it is. When it comes to intellectual and property infringement, that is what it is rooted in. And Black folks in the United States, they often bear the brunt of intellectual property infringement because it's a highly specialized area of law that if you do not understand the terminologies, you will get your stuff stolen. You will get your stuff stolen right from underneath your eyes. So that is why I stress to people at this point, just taking race out of it, I stress to people, you cannot take the cheap route with intellectual property, with protecting your intellectual property. Okay? Good Times, the Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, Cooley High. When you writing scripts, that's copyright. When you creating characters, that's copyright. When you actually have the brand names of your sitcoms, that's trademark. So it was a 2-in-1 situation here. And you have to be vigilant You have to be a vigilante when it comes to protecting your intellectual property rights in this situation. Because had he, I like to revise things. So had he owned the rights, his copyrights and his trademarks to all of those sitcoms back when he originally created them, one, he wouldn't have ended up essentially on Skid Row. He probably wouldn't have ended up on drugs. And three, we would not have ended up with the foolishness that we have now, is that Good Times official trailer on Netflix. And everybody who has participated in that series, whatever that is supposed to be, they should be ashamed of themselves. 100%, especially if they're Black. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it when it comes to that. So that was one of the most deplorable depictions of Good Times that I have seen. Of course, I was not born when Good Times first aired, but I did grow up watching Good Times. I did grow up watching Sanford and Son. I did grow up watching The Jeffersons. I have seen Cooley High, and I have seen all of these other movies and all these other sitcoms that were created by Eric Monte. And this whole time, we were taught that it was Norman Lear until we found out about the truth. Okay. So you have to really be serious when you are creating works of art, because works of art at their core innate copyrights. Okay. So when you are creating works of art, whether you're calling yourself an author, a musician, a painter, a sculptor, whatever creative works of art that you are creating, it cannot just be a hobby. You have to be extremely serious about it. Before you even start shopping around to production companies and putting your script out there, you need to make sure that you own that copyright to that. You have to. And once you sit down at the table with these companies and they are telling you that they're going to bring it to the big screen, they're going to bring it to TV, you want to make sure that in that contract, you're not signing away your intellectual property rights. You're not signing away your copyright and your trademark rights, because that happens as well. People will start off, they may have the ownership to their copyrights and trademarks registered. Then they sit at the table, they cut these deals. Next thing you know, they've signed everything away. They usually start realizing it once they're not getting certain residual checks, or if they do get residual checks, they see that the residual checks are for a minuscule amount of money. And so that's when the wheels start turning. That's when they actually start to go back and review those contracts and see that they essentially sign all of their intellectual property rights away. So I don't want you all to end up in that position. This is not something that I'm pulling out of a hat here. This is something that happens very frequently to Black people, to women, and to people who are considered to be of a lower class or a lower socioeconomic group. That is intellectual property infringement is deeply rooted in that. That is what that innately is. And I really need for people to understand that, so you all don't end up in that position. Because even if it's a situation like we have with Eric Monte, he was able to sue, but the legal fees at that time, he paid so much to attorneys. Like, it was ridiculous. If you go back and you watch his videos of him telling what happened to him in those situations. So I want you all to really pay attention to your copyright and your trademark infringement rights is not a joke, y'all. It's not a game. This happens. So the hoopla, and I'm proud of everybody for standing up and saying, hey, this Good Times trailer is BS. Like, what the bleep is going on here? Why are y'all putting this on the screen? Who said this was okay? And I'm happy for everybody calling out those Black actors who are the voice actors who participated in that foolishness, because they needed to be called out for that. So I am proud of people for doing that. But I want you all to really understand that this is not a one-off situation. So what we're seeing now with this Good Times animation foolishness, this is not a one-off. This is actually what we are, where everything has been swept underneath the rug to where you can't sweep anything underneath the rug anymore. This is what the Good Times official trailer is, okay? All of this theft of intellectual property, all of this intellectual property infringement has been swept underneath the rug for so long. This is what we ended up with. So really take heed to the words that I tell you. When you start searching for copyright applications and trademark applications, you have to understand that it is an investment. And it is an investment if you make wise and sound investments by utilizing a trademark attorney that you can truly trust, okay? Because y'all, you really have to be strategic when you are seeking copyright and trademark registration. A registration is amazing. I will never downplay having a copyright or trademark registration. But that is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So I thank y'all for watching. I wanted to share my thoughts on the Good Times Netflix trailer foolishness. Y'all know I don't play behind like pedophilia or any type of sexual assault or rape or nothing like that. It's not a joke and it's not a game to me. And I can't believe, well, I can believe that they did that because that's United States media and that's how it goes down. But seeing that in there, it was just, no, it's not okay. Had Eric Monte been on this show and owned everything from the beginning until now, this foolishness that we have going on now, we wouldn't even be experiencing this. Okay, so you all definitely heed my words. It's not to scare anybody. It's just to tell y'all, this is what it is. This Good Times animated Netflix trailer, this is not a one-off occurrence. It's not. This is something that happens daily in the intellectual property world. So if you go in now in 2020 and beyond with the mindset of, let me get this 300, this cheap trademark, let me cut corners, let me do this, let me do that, you are going to find yourself in a situation like Eric Monte. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When you are seeking, and that's how powerful intellectual property rights are. I've gotten to the point where I'm preaching, but I have to do this so you all can really understand, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about the power of intellectual property rights, okay? All of those shows that Eric Monte created, everybody knows about these shows. Let's just put the foolish animation aside, okay? Like I said, I was not even born when any of those sitcoms and movies aired, and I grew up on them. My descendants know about those shows now. So imagine how much money his family would have had everything been done correctly. And I'm not blaming Mr. Monte, because those were the times then. Those really were the times. That's what happened It doesn't make it right that it happened back then, but now it's 2024 and people are still falling into these same traps. And it's disheartening to see that. It's disheartening for me to hear people say, well, I'm going to go to this person that I know to, file my trademark application because they told me they could do it for like $300, $400, $500. And I'm like, okay, you have that right to do so. But I know what's coming down the pipeline for them. And the only thing that I can do is bid them well on their journey to intellectual property infringement, because that's what's coming down the pipeline for them. So I don't want you all to end up in the situation that we have now with this Good Times Netflix trailer foolishness. When you have a chance, we have a chance to get it right. We can be strategic, understand that it's an investment. It takes time, but the payoff when you invest in it in the beginning is truly going to outlive you. So all of these shows that Mr. Monte created, he's still alive, but they're going to outlive him. This is what it is. Like, he was on a show with his granddaughter talking about it. So this is going to outlive this man for perpetuity, pretty much. But had things been done the right way, and like I said, I'm not blaming him back then. That's just what it was back then. But now, people, y'all have the opportunity to get it right. You have the opportunity to get it right. So just know, when you go in half-stepping, and for me also, I just have to say this, it really shows that you really, truly don't believe in your brand. When you half-step on protecting your intellectual property rights, you really don't believe in the vision that whoever your God is or is not gave you for your business and brand. When you go into intellectual property, half-stepping, cutting corners, and being cheap, that's just the truth about that. So I wanted to hop on here and talk about that. It's very disheartening to see that Good Times Netflix trailer, but change is going to come. Well, change has already come because I'm here, and I will never put my name on no foolishness like that because I read through everything before I sign off on it. So I'm Queen, the Veil Lawyer with Bell Terry Law Firm.